or twice, Keith?
Not that you're on there like the smaller image and then the larger image, but.
Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone who is watching us either on YouTube or on Facebook. We thank you for joining us as we discuss here this evening, talking about going back to school within the Fauquier County Public School Systems. Obviously, if you go to a school that is outside of that realm, there's not a whole lot we can help you with here this evening. You'll have to contact your school. So if you're going to a private school, or obviously, homeschooling, you make up your own rules. But you'll have to contact those school systems. We're only here this evening to talk about the COVID protocols that Fauquier County Public Schools have established in this upcoming school year, what you can expect as a parent, as a student, as you're preparing to come back to school. And so tonight we have a member of the school board with us. Susan Pauling has agreed to come on and give us information as best as she has it. We don't expect her to be all things school board, those things that she's versed on. We welcome her responses, and there may be areas where we have to get back to you with a response because we may not have it here this evening. And so again, thank you, Susan, for joining us here this evening. And then also, for those who aren't aware, Pastor Vinnie Holland is co-moderator with me here on the Caliper Forums. And we look forward to a productive conversation here. Susan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. Definitely looking forward to getting the kids in school and moving forward with the year.
All right. Amen. So it looks like someone is saying they can't hear in social media land here. Let me see if I can solve that problem.
I'm trying to see. I have to turn down so low.
So it looks as if sound should be coming through.
Turn down so low. I hear you now.
Okay. So it looks like we're broadcasting sound out to social media. So I guess first question kind of, out the box, Susan, is I guess masks is the big thing. I mean, that seems to be the big thing in school. A lot of swirl around masks, whether or not they'll be required or not required in particular school systems. As it pertains to Fauquier County Public School System, what is the mask policy as we open up here later this month?
As of today, and I have to clarify everything because we know, and what we've learned throughout the year is how important the term pivot is, even though I've said it's become like almost an educational swear word. But as of today, masks are optional. So we're not saying no masks. We are saying that every parent needs to decide what they're most comfortable with for their family, for their children, and make that decision. And masks are optional as of right now.
All right.
And I say that because that was the decision that we made. We were waiting for the governor to move us out of a state of emergency and to release the mask mandates on our schools. And what happened with the new guidance that we were given is that every school board has the power and the ability to make the decisions best for their community. So it's based on metrics and where we are. And so what we decided when we came out of the state of emergency in July 1st, we made masks optional. And at this point in time, they still are optional, and we're really hoping to move forward in the new year. I know for me, I'm anticipating continuing in optional masks. I don't know if it's a posture, or position, or policy, but that I'm really hoping that we're able to continue in a mask optional situation. But what we learned after last year is that metrics change, things happen, and we're just going to have to continually just keep it at the forefront and watch the numbers and watch what's going on in the schools. And because really, ultimately, our goal is to educate children. So we can talk about all these different mitigations and these strategies, but if there at any point, any of our mitigations or lack of mitigations interferes with having our children in school 5 days a week, the goal is school. And having our kids there as much as possible, it's so important. So as a school board member, I'm committed to make decisions that enable to having our kids 5 days a week.
And that is the current policy, is to open up 5 days a week currently.
Yes. 5 days a week. And unless something changes, there was a bill that passed that every school division in the state needs to open and offer 5 days a week.
And is there any, I'm sorry. No,
I just wanted to really highlight another thing is that we did start a virtual academy. So any parents or any families that are uncomfortable with the mask optional, then there is the virtual academy, and they can apply for that. And we wanted to make sure that that was available for, we had children last year that thrived in the virtual model. So we wanted to continue that, but there's also families that still continue to be hesitant of having their children in the schools. So, that is something that we wanted to make sure was something that we offered to our community.
So with the virtual academy, do you know off the top of your head how someone would apply for that? Or is that something that's on the school board website?
It is on the school board website. The big thing is that not every child had access when we went virtual. That was something that we talked about. You have to have Wi-Fi. You need to have parent support at home. And the exact guidelines, I'm not totally sure on that. But there are standards that every family would have to meet in order to be entered into the virtual academy. Because really at the end, we can't lose any of our kids for another year because of COVID.
And I guess with that option of having Wi-Fi, if let's just say they're in one of those areas where they don't have Wi-Fi, however, they can get to a location, on a daily basis where they can get it. Would that be acceptable, or do they have to have Wi-Fi in their home too?
And this might be one of those things that I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
But I believe that they have to prove that they have accessibility.
Okay.
But as far as the nitty gritties of where that Wi-Fi is, I could tell you as a parent, I think, well, what's the difference if it's at home or if it's at an office? But I don't know what guidelines Dr. Jack has set up for the program. So I want to honor that and don't put the cart out in front of the horse.
Right. So just to be clear on the response that we just received there is that we don't know the answer to the question that I just posed. And so more information, we'll try to reach out to Dr. Jack and see if we can get that information. If not, maybe Susan can reach out to him and try to get that, and we'll get back to you. So please don't apply saying, well, I heard on the Caliper forum that that's not what was said here. The question was asked, but we don't have a definitive answer, on that question. So
So
please,
what
sir,
I'm
please,
writing,
ma'am, don't frame it that way.
right. So what I'm doing is I'm writing down anything that I need to follow up for, and I will get that clarification to you, Pastor
Okay.
Keith, and I will make sure that you have that. And if we want to post it or whatever you want to do with that information, but just want to make sure everybody has what they need going into the school year.
Okay. And so back to the mask, I know in some, workplaces, there are certain things that don't qualify as a mask. I know in some buildings, you can't wear a gaiter. That doesn't qualify as a mask. You have to wear either a surgical mask or, something along those lines. Are there any restrictions on what the students or teachers use as a mask? I mean, obviously, it needs to be a real mask. You can't tape something on your face and say that you're wearing a mask. Hopefully, people get that part. But I think you understand the question.
Our position for masks has always been an actual mask that covers the mouth and is tied around the nose and around the face, and with the elastics behind the ears. We eliminated gaiters. Gaiters were not to standard for masks. So for right now, as masks are optional, if someone came in with a gaiter, it would be acceptable because there's no mask requirement.
Okay.
But if we ever moved into a situation where masks were mandatory and that every child and every staff member had to have a mask regardless of vaccination status, then it would go back to the same protocols that we had last year, which was an actual mask tight fitted against the face.
Okay. So that's good to know, because obviously with people out there, there's all those different opinions as it pertains to masks. So it's good to have some clarification, on that. And I guess moving along, with the school year, first day of school is when?
Is August 11th.
August 11th. Everyone shows up. And now, I am blessed, for the first time in probably 30 years where I'm not sending someone to school. So is a tax-free weekend, is it this weekend or was it this past weekend? For school supplies and things like that? Anyone knows?
I saw an announcement. I believe it's coming up.
Okay.
If you give me a couple of minutes, I can find out.
Okay. And I've started to block that stuff out of my mind now since I don't have to do it anymore. So I don't pay as much attention to that, anymore. I guess I should with the grandchildren, but that's what they have parents for.
August 6th through the 8th.
Okay,
so it's this upcoming weekend.
It is this weekend. Will the school have masks available just in case someone wants to wear one, but they forgot to bring it? Will they have masks available for students?
Absolutely. We've continued to have masks available.
Okay. And then as far as hand sanitizing stations, all those things
I
will
can't
be
hear
available.
you.
I'm sorry? Did you lose me?
He dropped off. Keith, can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear me anymore?
Now you're coming back.
Okay. All right. Are you able to hear me now, Susan? Did you lose me again? All right. Can you hear me now? Wonders of technology here. Let me try something different.
Yeah, you're barely coming in, and the social mix won't load on my laptop.
Okay, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're coming back up.
All right, Susan, are you able to hear me now?
Susan has dropped off.
Uh,
She probably her screen froze for a minute, so she dropped off. She may be trying to get back in.
okay.
But your volume is a lot better.
Yeah, technology at its best.
There you go. For whatever reason, the social mix will not load. I got the right one. Let me try another window here.
Let's see.
The address didn't change for the social mix, did it?
No, it should be the same.
Okay.
But let me verify that.
Yeah.
It kicked me off. I apologize.
Oh, no, that's fine. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
It kicked me out.
Oh, well, that wasn't nice.
Didn't like my answer.
I don't think we have to worry about being hacked. That's a pretty good thing. But,
Whenever comments are entered, they're showing up on the screen, though.
they are showing up on the screen. They're just, you're not able to see them where we need you to see them.
Oh, okay.
That's I'll work on that as asking questions here.
All right.
So what I was asking Susan was about hand sanitizing stations. All those things will be readily available around the school also.
Yes, everything that we had set up for last year is still set up. The water bottle filling stations, the hand sanitizer, all of those things are ready to go. We invested a lot of time and a lot of money to have those things available for our students and for our faculty. So those things will still be available this year.
All right. And then I guess with the students, coming back, and I guess with the mask mandate, if you guys decide to mandate it, will it be based on grade, or will it be it's all or nothing as far as the school system is concerned? Would there be an opportunity, to say, well, only high school students have to wear masks, but middle school, elementary, they don't have to? I guess that's what I'm asking. Is it an all or nothing proposition?
Because we haven't had those conversations as a board,
Okay.
I really can't answer that. I can say personally what I would vote for, but beyond that, I can't speak for the board and and how they would implement things. I know that last year we did whatever decisions we made, it was for our entire school division. But going into this year, because the way some of the guidance has been written, both federally and in our state, I'm not really sure what kind of decisions would be made. Again, I'd like to reiterate that our hope is moving forward that masks would be able to stay optional the entire year.
Okay. And if someone starts off virtual, can they switch back to coming in and vice versa, or are you locked in once you make a decision?
And I'm going to have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
We had a lot of back and forth last year, and there was but the way we're doing the virtual academy is it's like we do our other academies. So if you sign up for an academy at any of our high schools, you don't move in and out of the program.
Okay.
Like you're assigned a teacher, that's what you're going to be doing. That's your courses are all aligned with that. So the virtual academy is going to be set up just like that. Like this is the school that you're going to be enrolled in. And so I don't know at this time if there's going to be an allowance back and forth, but that wasn't the intent. And that really hasn't been a part of any of the discussions because they're actually enrolled.
Okay. That would make sense then, that the not being able to flip back and forth because there's a different pace potentially. So I could definitely see some potential hurdles that would have to be overcome for the student making that switch back and forth. So it'd be interesting to hear what the answer is, but I can definitely see where the hurdles would come in for that one there. And I guess for the student, go ahead, I'm sorry.
There will be an option though, that if students are quarantined or if they're going to miss substantial periods of time, that we're working on that right now to make sure that there will be options for them so that, you know, if a child has to quarantine for 7 to 10 days, right, depending on what's going on in their home, you know, potentially the way the guidance is still written with the Virginia Department of Health is that you could have 10 days and then another 10 days back to back as far as quarantining. So we can't have our high school students missing, 15 days of school. So there are going to be options where students are going to be able to maintain and to keep up with their classes. But that isn't going to be moving in and out of the virtual academy. Okay.
Again, I think that's good for parents to know, because obviously it could happen, right? I mean, as careful as you may try to be, vaccinated or not, you could still, pop positive, and then there has to be some allowance for those students, especially if they can't get into the virtual academy. And again, they would have the same hurdles trying to jump in there as someone, switching the other way. So that is good to know. How often is the school board meeting now? Is it twice a month?
Yeah, we have our regular school board meeting is typically the second Monday. So our next school board meeting is August 9th, the Monday before school starts. And then there's an allowance for a work session, which would be the fourth Monday. Okay. So sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't, just depends on what's going on.
All right. And so at the school board meetings, what have been some of the biggest concerns voiced by parents as it pertains to COVID for this upcoming school year?
Really, to be honest, most of the discussion has been centered around what has been going on in our schools this summer. And our numbers were incredibly low. We weren't talking, the news wasn't talking about the variant. There wasn't I can't say we didn't have a zero case count in Fauquier, but our numbers were really low. And to make it clear, our numbers are still low, but not like in June, we had some days where we had 0 cases. And right now, I believe I saw this morning that our 7-day average is 10 cases. And so it's not as low as it was in June. So our last school board meeting, the news hadn't really been talking a lot about the variant. We had been hearing about the variant in other countries and what it was doing in other countries. But really, to be honest, I would say probably in the last 2 weeks, the dialogue has really changed about what's going on with COVID nationally. And once that started happening, we started getting more emails, not necessarily about people wanting to be, or parents wanting to go virtual. I think the big concern is that we would issue a mask mandate for all of the schools. But at the same time, there's other emails also, and where they're asking not to do a mask mandate and to continue with the mask optional. So once again, we find ourselves in a very, very polarized situation where some teachers want to teach without a mask, some teachers want them, and it's the same in our community with our families. Is that some people really adamantly feel strongly that we need to issue a mask mandate, and others feel like that should be their decision. Like that should be something that they choose for their families. And I have to be honest, I lean more towards letting any family choose. And it's not that I minimize the COVID. It's not that I minimize the impact on a family and what it can do. But I do think that it's so important that we look at the other side of how kids feel when they're at school, and mental health is an issue. That how kids feel when they're there and they're wearing these masks all day. Parents feel very strongly that that their children are not as healthy as they were before COVID because they've been wearing masks. So these are all valid concerns as well. So, I think that that's why, I don't feel that there's error to say, if you as a parent are more comfortable with your child wearing a mask, then please have your child wear a mask. But for other families, it's more important that their children just be children and be allowed to go to church, to go to school and have some sense of normalcy in all of the craziness that they've dealt with since March of 2020.
So the teachers have the option, then, I guess I should have asked that before. They have an option of wearing a mask or not, or is it mandated for teachers?
It's optional right now for everyone, for students and staff. And I think that kind of leads into when you were asking, would it be an all or nothing? Typically, and I'm the decisions that we made for
Okay. Okay. All right.
The kids were wearing masks, the teachers were wearing masks. Same with administration, same with school board office. Like everywhere you went, if you had to wear a mask on in the ground, in the parking lot, that included visitors, everyone that was on the ground. So, right now, that applies now. The other way is that, everyone can decide if they want to go into the school, or if they have to be in the school or at the field or sports or whatever. It's their decision of whether or not they're going to wear a mask.
And I mean, what feedback have you been hearing from students? Just kind of curious. And I know Pastor Holland probably has some questions also, just because he's been around a lot more young people and still has students in the system there. So what has been some of the feedback from them? Just kind of curious.
Well, I really don't know. I'm with my children, and so I feel like my selection pool, it's not like I surveyed children outside of my sphere. So I know that everywhere my kids have gone this summer, they have not worn a mask. So whether it's swim team, Sky Zone, camp, my daughter's out riding her bike right now with her friends. There's no mask. And so, I'm, that's the kind of the way we've navigated the summer. But like I said before, the discussion about what's going on has really changed just in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
So, my son was just at band camp, and we just had a big cookout at the end, and I think that there was one gentleman with a mask on. So I think one of the concerns too, I've seen in emails where someone has said, well, the other kids are going to bully them to make them take off their masks, or they're going to make fun of them. And really, that's not what I've seen. I think that our children are so used to seeing people in masks that it's, I know that the student that had a mask on at band camp, like, no one was saying anything to them. Like, no one was saying, boy, you need to take your mask off. It just wasn't like that. So I don't really anticipate peer pressure for people to take off their masks. But I know that is a concern that parents do have about their children going in and wearing a mask. They're concerned that they're going to get peer pressure to take the mask off when their parents aren't there.
I mean, and anything like that will be treated as, a bully.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So, I mean, people should be aware of that again, it's about having respect for other people's, choice.
Yep.
You don't have to agree with it, but, out of respect, you don't know what's going on in other people's homes, and those children some of them are wearing a mask. They may not want to, but their parents are telling them you absolutely will wear that mask. And so let's not, regardless of why the mask is on or not on, we should respect other people's decisions in that particular area. Pastor Holland, I know that you may have some things that you want to throw out there, so I'll open it up for you.
Yes, Susan, you answered half of a question about the mental health part, and the teachers have, are the counselors set up for dealing with any of this in-school issue that could come on the mental health side with children in masks, et cetera? So that becomes one of the questions.
I think that our school counselors are amazing, and they're ready. They were ready when the kids came back in November last year. They were ready when the kids trickled in through the year, because we started them coming in, and some families waited until after spring break to come in. And so I believe that the counselors are ready for meeting these students and these kids where they're at, getting the referrals that they need, and really helping families. But I have to say, like, the big plug is that we continue to need to add in more social workers, more school counselors. I mean, I think that, especially coming in off of COVID, I think that we're just barely seeing what these kids have had to deal with for the last 18 months or more. And so I think that the ones that we have in the building are ready to go. And they've always been ready to deal with our kids. But even more now, there is definitely a heightened awareness of the whole picture of how this has impacted every student.
Okay, thank you. Another question they have is on the mask. We've seen a lot of masks with decorations on them and faces, et cetera, like the Joker and things like that. Are any of those masks prohibited, or how does that work?
I don't ever remember discussing anything as far as narrowing anything down with masks. I can get back to you on that. It would have to fall under the same guidelines as of anything that a student has on their body. So they can't come in advertising, like they can't have a Corona mask, Corona the beer, I'm sorry. But like they can't advertise violence. They can't advertise, there's a student code. And so the mask would fall under all of those same guidances. So I don't ever remember sitting down and creating a policy about what the mask needed to have on it or not. But certainly there can't be any curse words. There can't be anything vulgar. There can't be any even direction towards violence, aggression, anything like that. And again, I can get the exact policy, but what that policy would be, it would fall under the dress code.
Okay, thank you for that. And one question left was, last year during the virtual section, they had lunches available for students who may be in situations where they had the buses dropping them off at places. Is a program similar to that going to be in place with Virtual Academy enrollees this year?
And that is a great question. And I know that we worked really hard, not only as a division, but also as the state, of making sure that kids had food. And I need to get the particulars back about what we'll be offering and get that back to you guys. I know that the goal of our division is to make sure that every child has food.
Great, thank you so much. That's all the questions I have at this time, Ref.
All right, great, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And again, as I said before we went on, if we don't need the whole hour, we won't take the whole hour. And if there's no other questions on social media, I think I've exhausted my line of questioning. So unless someone chimes in really fast with a question, then you can always do it afterwards. I mean, we do check these comments after the fact. A couple weeks out, we'll still be checking the comments. And if something comes in after the fact, we'll reach out to the school board as a whole. We won't just pick on Susan necessarily and try to get an answer for you. I mean, obviously you can reach out to the school board yourself, but we don't mind being a go-between. We like to think that we have a decent relationship with most of our community leaders, which is why we set up this forum in the first place, to try to be that bridge, between the community and our leaders in this community, so that we can hear each other, from whatever point of view we're coming from, and not necessarily argue with each other, but try to come to some understanding of other people's position and still be able to walk away, maybe not agreeing, but hopefully having a better understanding of the other person's position. And so
Can I?
that, go ahead.
Can I say one thing? I just want to direct people back to our website. So it's fcps1.org. And there are so many resources on that website. Like, I was just looking at it right now, and it has a whole section on the virtual academy and questions that you might have. And even down the bottom, there are in-person learning facts and even mail service options. So, there's so many, even just on that front page, and there's links there. But at any point in time, if you have a question about what's going on in our schools, and I just encourage everyone to reach out to your representative. If you don't know who that is, you can send it to everyone. And the other thing is come to our meetings. And I think that I've said that from the very beginning, is that if you want to know firsthand information, not rumor on Facebook, but you want to know exactly what's going on in our school division, our meetings are live streamed. It's 6 o'clock on August 9th. And right now it's set to be in the Falcon Room, but you can also access it, same page, fcps1.org. And you can go there, and there will actually be a link that will take you right to our live streamed meetings. And you'll be able to see everything that's going on firsthand. So, just encourage you to stay engaged. I know that through COVID, we've had parents get more engaged and invest more of their time and their energy in actually finding out what's going on. But I would love to see an active community that is full on board and knows what's going on in our schools, and that they're not learning it from Fox News or from CNN or for wherever we make the headline articles, but that you understand that no one on the school board decided to run for the school board because they ever thought they were going to have to navigate a pandemic. But it is knowing that at the end of the day, every person at the table is making decisions in their best mindset for our kids. And I can honestly say that about the administration. I can say that about the school board, is that we might all come at it at different directions, and we might all have different ideas on what's safe and what's not and what's a priority. But it is understanding that I didn't run on the school board because I wanted power. I ran on the school board because I love our schools and I love our kids. I think it is a worthy investment to be a positive voice of what's going on in our schools. And I am so excited that we're opening 5 days a week, and we're gonna get back to the basics of learning and engaging these kids. And I'm really excited that we're moving forward. Can't wait for August 11th and for my kids to get on the bus.
Now you're speaking as a parent. Well, we definitely want to thank you so much for giving us your time here this evening and coming on. I think one of the things that we want to do, and the Mental Health Association has actually reached out to me about doing this, that our next forum, and it won't be before school starts, unfortunately, but having them on and maybe talking again about youth mental health and some of the things parents should be looking out for, and some of the assistance that we have right here in the county. Obviously, you mentioned the counselors at the school, but even outside of the school, there are some avenues where parents can go and get help, for their children. I don't know what the backlog is or may be for the school system, but if we have other resources, we want to make sure people have access to all of those things to get the help that they need. And not just the students. I mean, obviously we have parents who are dealing with certain things, and I'm sure with the teachers, they have their own, levels of stress and how they're dealing with this also. Pastor Holland, anything else before I dismiss?
No, sir, nothing's on the line. So it looks like we did a great job, Ms. Susan. Appreciate your input and your willingness to come in. That was wonderful. And you answered a lot of questions that everybody was asking over the weekend. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Honor being here. If I'm able to, I'm trying to make sure that we get the message out so that people understand what we're doing and what we're not doing. I think that, a lot of times Facebook can be the source of information, and frankly, I don't normally put the information out there because I never know what's going to come back my way. But, and speaking to the mental health component, and this is not my expertise as far as on the school board, but, when there's discussion about some of our state facilities, our mental health facilities not accepting new patients because they're at capacity, I think that we need to start looking at that. And we were talking about the importance and the need for mental health in our schools long before COVID. And what this did was it brought it to the forefront. And so people were dealing with this. They may be dealing with it a little bit more quietly, and they were able to manage it all together. But COVID and the lockdowns and virtual school and sports being closed and all the different pieces, churches closing, all of those different pieces where people were kind of forced into their homes and to be isolated away in their own difficulties. I think that if we don't step up our resources in our community for our children, for our parents, for our even, what did this do to our grandparent generation that were removed from their grandchildren for a year and a half? I mean, these are important things that we need to remember, that moving forward, how vital this is going to be in order for us to quote unquote get back to normal.
Right. Amen. All right. So with that, thank you once again. And again, if anyone watching this, whether you're watching live or you watch it after the fact, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment section, whether it be YouTube or Facebook. As I said before, we do check those things. And if it's a question, we'll do our best to get the answer to you. So with that, thanks again, everybody, for your time here this evening. Have a blessed evening until we come together again on this Caliper Forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.